Hey everyone, Josh here with a new channel called Tech Answers. Today we're going to take a look at graphics cards and how their drivers improve performance over time. The three graphics cards I chose for this test are a GTX 280, a GTX 480, and an HD 6850 from AMD. The reason I chose these older cards is so you can see what to expect over the life of your graphics card. For the HD 6850, I included the last beta driver before support for the card was ended. I stuck with games that were released around the same time as the graphics cards, give or take a year or so. Let's see what kind of results I got. The specs for the test bench I used is a Xeon E5 1620v3 CPU, an MSI X99 Crate Edition motherboard, 32GB of Mushkin Blackline DDR4, Silicon Power S55 120GB SSD, a 1000 watt OCZ power supply, and of course, the good old trusty Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo for my CPU cooler. Using a Xeon in a test bench is a little peculiar, but I'm hoping to change that soon. In Crysis, the GTX 480 went from 32.38 FPS to 36.55, not too bad. The 280 only went from 18.8 to 19.55, which could technically be attributed to margin of error. The 6850 went from 28.48 FPS to 33.9. The beta driver didn't fare as well, dropping to 30.35 on Crysis. In Lost Planet's Extreme Conditions Snow benchmark, the 480 went from 83 to about 88 FPS. Not too bad. A small incremental gain. The gain on the 280 was almost negligible, going from 62.7 to 64.6. Again, could possibly be chalked up to margin of error. The 6850 saw improvements, but nothing to write home about, with a 57.1, a 62, and a 62.3. Again, potentially margin of error stuff. In the Cave benchmark, the FPS was much higher to begin with, so the gains aren't as noticeable, coming in at 123 to 133.9 for the GTX 480. The 280 barely got an improvement, going from 92.5 to 95.8. The 6850 racked in a score of 78.1, 85, and 86.9. Consistent, but not much. In Firestrike, the 480 saw massive gains, going from 2343 all the way up to 3580. I had to use 3D Mark Vantage for the 280 because it was the only thing that it was compatible with, but its score went from 4453 all the way up to 5477. Not as big as a 480, but still pretty darn good. The 6850 did not fare as well, going from 2791 all the way down to 2608 with the driver update. And I'm not sure what's going on with this beta driver, but it dropped all the way down to 2566. In Lost Planet 2 Test A, the 480 went from 50.6 to 61.9, getting above that 60 FPS average that everybody wants. The 280 in Test A went from 48.1 to 52.3, not much, but a gain nonetheless. And the 6850 went from 31.7 to 32.3 to 33.9. Beginning to see a trend. And finally, in Lost Planet 2 Test B, the 480 pulled a 40.9 to a 49.9. The 280 went from 35.4 to 44.6, a fairly healthy gain. And the 6850 with a lackluster 26.1 to 27.7 and a 27.6, an actual slight regression. Well, there you have it, folks. AMD didn't perform as well as I really thought they were going to, but it could just be a limitation of the architecture. So what we're going to do in a future video is we're going to compare the 680 versus the 7970. These cards are actually still, for the most part, relevant, but we'll have to take a look and see how the drivers made these things better and how they stand up to modern games. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.